We're live. So, welcome to those who are tuning in or will tune in to this live. We are, this is the first episode in our relationship series, and we're going to be talking about so many different topics within relationships and the different kind of relationships there can be. And really, we're for the first episode, we're going to be diving into the relationship with the self, the kind of first relationship that when we focus on that, all of the other relationships can then subsequently fall into alignment, and we can actually find greater connectivity, greater clarity within our external relationships when we work on establishing a healthy and clear relationship within the self. So, um, I am, my name is Angelica, and basically I'm a ascended master healer. That was a term given to me by my guides, my higher self. And it basically just means I do like my magical, cool thing. And, I'm, just kind of a badass when it comes to healing and working with energy. And yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. And this is Miroslava. Miroslava, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I always struggle to say who I am or what I am because there's so much, and I feel that, like everyone can be so many things, and we are really everything. But I guess the way I would describe myself is as a cosmic traveler. I am here just to bring in energies of many galactic races and many worlds, many universes. I was actually telling Angelica that this new energy came in of this council of the multiverse. And so that is something that I am really starting to embody and to consciously be more mindful of so that I can bring more of those energies and really start being more of everything that I've ever been. But yeah, so just a cosmic traveler. I am here as a messenger of collectives, of energies, elementals, angels, just everything. Like, I can't say just one thing because it's everything. And yeah, and of course my crystals. I am in love with those beings. So yeah, I am so excited to dive into the topic of relationships because this is something that, even though I've never been in a romantic relationship, I have experienced connections with people. And there's been, like, we automatically, when we think of relationships, we go to lovers and to like all of that stuff, but there's more. There's friendships, there's families. And in my case, I now I do have friends, but like before I didn't really have friends. So the way I learned about relationships was just by observing people, by seeing just how people behaved with, just with others. And that's really how I learned. And I know that a lot of people are like myself, especially if we're introverts. We don't really socialize that much,
Yeah.
but we see and we're very conscious of everything that's going on around us. Um, so yeah, and so one thing that we wanted to, or one of the main topics that we wanted to talk about today, because this is only episode one of five lives that we're gonna be doing for the next few weeks, and it's all gonna be about relationships. We have one live that's next week, right? About just twin flames, and that's gonna be just, we're going deep, and we're gonna share things. I know I'm going to share things that I've never shared before because that's why we experience those things, to learn from them and to, to share how we were able to grow and to, just come back to ourselves, because relationships really do teach us how to love ourselves and how to come back to feel that void that we feel looking for relationships within ourselves. So we're going to be diving into that, as well as soulmates and shadow mentors, which is similar to karmic soulmates, but I was telling Angelica that karmic soulmates is too toxic for me. So let's switch it to shadow mentors because that feels more. It's like it's more high vibrational in a way, and so I love that. But yeah, so Angelica, how do we really dive into this conversation about, or well, let's say it this way. I want to know how you were able to come back to yourself and to use the relationships that were around you or the connections that you had to really find yourself, to start loving yourself, and just to really be full within yourself and be whole. Because, again, we look for relationships because we feel empty and we want to
Yeah.
feel that just we want to feel something, and even if it's anger, if it's frustration, we want to feel something instead of
Yeah.
feeling just empty. So what do you have to say, Angelica?
So for me, it's really started for me during my awakening, and that was in 2016. And I had my awakening, and like most people, it was like, my mind is blown open to all of these different, realities and perspectives, and different truths, right? Different perspectives that awaken your soul. And I think it was sometime in 2017 that I realized I needed to heal very, very deeply, or else I was going to commit suicide. I was not in a good place. I had been running away from all of the trauma for over 20 years. I had been jumping from relationship to relationship for just about the same amount of time and avoiding myself. And so when I had that kind of epiphany, there was some things in my life going on that really showed me um, that it's time to really focus on myself. And I had to make some very, very difficult decisions. I had to make a really difficult decision at the time. And I'm kind of like feeling in, do I want to share that piece of information? Maybe I will. Um,
Please,
but
if you feel comfortable, yes.
so, so basically, I found myself, I had gotten pregnant, and really I was initially so excited, like, oh my God, this is amazing. And after some contemplation, I realized I either have to choose this being and give all of the trauma and the stuff to this being, or I need to focus on myself, and really give all to myself. And that was a huge, huge wake up call for me to do the work. Because if I was going to commit to myself, then it was going to be, I commit to myself. If I committed to that being, then it was going to be probably a mess, because I had so much trauma that would have been transferred onto that being. And so the decision was to um, basically, have an abortion and choose myself in that whole situation, and really had to orient myself towards, okay, it's really time for me to heal here, or else I'm I'm going to off myself. I'm going to commit suicide. And so that was really my big awakening, uh, or how do I want to say this? It was just kind of my big epiphany of like, it's time to heal. And so during my healing process, and from like the last 3 years, um, actually, yeah, almost 4 years now. So it was about August 2017. So almost 4 years now. During that whole span of like learning shadow work, learning how to do my own shadow work, learning how to dive deeper, and taking different classes or different courses from people, I have learned how to I kind of learned like all of the deep spiritual concepts, right? But it's been over that course of the time that it's been a slow integration for me of integrating those concepts, not just like having them up here as a concept, it's like really literally physically embodying them and shifting my relationship to others. And I've lost a lot of friends along the way because I had to shift all of those things. And as I healed and took care of myself, I shifted all those relationships, and looking back, I can see how those relationships they served me at the time, but they weren't in alignment with who I truly was and who I truly came here to be. But they were in alignment for who I was at the time. So it's been a really incredible journey for me. But I've utilized those relationships as a gauge to show me, where am I at? I mean, I feel like I'm in a different place now, and I can utilize relationships in a much different way, in a much more conscious way. But for those about 3 years, I wasn't really conscious. I was just kind of doing the healing work, and then I would see people fall away in my reality. And then from there, it was just, that was hard. So I would have to then integrate that the pain or the hurt that came from it, or the feelings that were surfacing from that. So I've kind of utilized relationships in a very unique way. My unconscious to conscious works in a unique way, as does everybody's. So I feel like at first I was very, very unconscious, and now I've kind of reached a point to where I can actually work with relationships much more consciously and see that, kind of because recently, this year, I had shadow mentors come in, which I didn't realize what they were at the time. I just thought they were friends, and that's what they were to me. And we had a whole experience. Um, and looking back, I can see how, I wasn't really valued in the relationship. There was a lot of projections that I just took on for face value. And I was like, oh yeah, it was, but it was actually also helping me to see, um, how I was still working out some of the wounds. I was working through, um, some of those patterns, okay, like whatever you say, and I'm this and I'm that, and I'm this poor little victim, that would take all of the projections on in that relationship. And um, in the shadow mentors and soulmates episode, I'll get more into that. But I've been able to since then, I've been able to become way more conscious of how relationships and the reflection, can really inform our lives and give us a great amount of clarity, rather than fighting against it or even fighting with the person. Although sometimes that can be a great clarifier too, that can be much needed too. So it's really just, where are you in your journey, and how are you utilizing relationships in your life to grow, to evolve, or to become more clear in yourself. So that's me. Um, how about yourself? How have you kind of? Because I feel like you, Miroslava, have a completely different perspective on this. Since yeah. Tell
Yeah.
me about your experiences.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for sharing this because, I feel that it's all connected, and those are experiences that we each go through to learn and to grow and to become who we are now, and who we are now is going to keep changing and becoming even more and more of all that we truly are. But yeah, relationships with me have been a little different than with most people because it's been very, I feel that I, again, I never really had any friends, so that type of relationship was very, it there were very few friends that I was able to like connect to, because I love depth and I love, like the mysteries of the universe and learning about all those like extraterrestrials, like magic and like all of that stuff. I love all of it. And I didn't really have a lot of people around me that would, connect with me in that way. And so the connections that I had were very shallow, and it was just like, like coworkers and stuff like that, which I mean, I did meet a few like really good friends that I worked with, but it's been very, I would say, 'cause that's how I feel, like very lonely. It was very lonely. And I feel that a lot of starseeds feel this way because, it's like we are very deep souls and we love connection. But at the same time,
Mm.
what I experienced myself is that I wasn't ready for connection. And that's because there was a lot of trauma that was stored within me. And that's what was keeping people away because or I was the one pushing them away because I was projecting my own trauma and I was projecting my own fears. And so I hated myself. And so I thought that everyone around me hated me, even though they never said anything to make me feel anything. It was just me. I was making myself feel a certain way. And so it was all being reciprocated because, everyone is a mirror. And even though, again, the people that I was coming into contact with, most people, because there were a few that were like, oh, like damn, but a lot of the people were very good to me. But again, I was projecting a lot of trauma and a lot of fears, and so I was putting those walls up, and people weren't really able to come in because I was very guarded. And so all of this again stems from just the way that I felt inside, and that I felt and I feel that a lot of us, even though, because I haven't been here many lifetimes on this earth, so there's really no karmic attachment that I have to anyone or to any lifetime here. But what I do know is that I was carrying a lot of not only the energy of the collective, so I was healing and I was doing a lot of work for the collective, but I was also feeling the energy that was passed through generations from my ancestors. So there was a lot of ancestral karma and ancestral trauma that I was feeling, and I was so confused because I had no idea what that was. And so I took it all as mine, and I was, and that's what I was so depressed and I was so sad when I was younger. And and I would see people just being in relationships and being with friends and hanging out, and I didn't feel like I was good enough to be in that sort of connection or in that sort of relationship. So with me it's a little different because again, like I was the one keeping people away from me. And then, well, although I recently I was able to connect with one of my indigenous spirit animals, the black jaguar, and he showed up and he was like, I was the one that kept that person away from you because he was a distraction. So I was like, I kept those people away from you. So there are spirit guides that are working with us and are working for us to make sure that we don't get entangled in so much karma with other people. And in my case, I feel that I came here to not be really, to stay free from karma, I guess, in a way, to not really entangle myself with other people because my journey is just different. But yeah, and twin flames, I mean, there's so much to say about that, and we'll be diving into that conversation on next week's live. But I met my twin flame and he changed my life and now I am so much better because of it. And I was able, like these connections do teach us a lot of unconditional love, and not only love for this other person but love for ourselves. So like one of the things that I have learned just connecting to people that have been shadow mentors in my life, that have been those karmic soulmates, people that have said things to me that hurt and that like really caused some sort of pain within me. Those people are the ones that have taught me to love myself, and to like the things that they were pointing out, those are the things that I needed to learn to love. And so they were just like, hey, that you need to look at that, like why, like and that's probably not that wasn't their intention probably, but we can shift the energy that other people are emitting, and we can make it work for us. And so yeah, I feel like I've been all over the place, but I'm sorry. I just I just I don't know. I don't it's all always been just about us. It's been about me, and then in your experience, Angelica, it's been about you. And I feel that when people go into relationships, they forget that they exist, that they themselves have a heart, and they need to really fill up the void that they have within themselves. And this is something that, even though I've never been in a relationship, I have been in connections. I have been in love, or I thought that I was in love a few times, but just I feel like I've been in love only once. But the other times I was kind of, trying to fill the void, or I was trying to be like everyone else to be in a relationship. Like, like I want to receive the flowers, the chocolates, all of that stuff, because that's what society tells us that love is. Gifts and rings and all of that stuff. And so I wanted that. And then I realized that there was a lot that I needed to heal within myself and that I needed to work with. And that's what the twin flame connection taught me. But, we're going to be, again, diving into that later. But yeah, it's been a beautiful journey of just getting to know myself and getting to love myself. And I know, Angelica, that, I feel like we have mastered this by now. We are just so empowered and so in love with who we are now. And I was telling Angelica that I'm ready to be committed to someone if that person is the right person for me, and something that I see a lot of, like people nowadays is, or women, is like they have like this mentality of like wanting the best, and that's great. But I feel like there's so much ego behind like the girl boss, or like, like I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but it's like, like this women that are so badasses that they belittle men. And I feel like that's something that we need to work on, and that we need to heal the trauma within ourselves so that we can see the other sex, or like men and women also, as equals, and so that we can be more in alignment with everyone and in tune with that oneness consciousness. So yeah, I feel like I was all over the place, but
No,
but
not at
yeah.
all.
Yeah. So what else do you have to say, Angelica? Because I
I
just talk too much.
no, you don't. I feel like once you started in on, I feel like I wholeheartedly agree. Like, because you, I've told you before, like you're so well spoken, and sometimes I'm just like I just kind of go with whatever is coming through. And but when you started talking about like that you were holding so much trauma that you were just projecting it outward, and, and pushing people away, that was totally my experience. Because of all of the trauma that I experienced with family, um, mostly my mom, and because we had had a not so great relationship from my teen years on, and it just kind of deteriorated over the years, that I was just like so resistant to having anybody be in my life. And it took a really, really special person to be in that really close space with me, to be like a close friend. And
Mm,
I'm like you, I really wanted the deep connection. I had, the more shallow connections, but although I didn't realize it at the time, they weren't very deeply fulfilling. And I didn't really find a lot of fulfillment in those relationships, although they were there, and they were there to show me, what those things within me that are like, hey, maybe you should look at this. Hey, maybe you want to like look at that a little bit, you know? But that is so much of my experience as well, is that I was so holding on to so much trauma so long that I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know how to connect to people, and I didn't want to. I felt, as an empath, there's another relationship, you know, um, another term we can explore within the relationships, because empaths, if they don't have boundaries or they don't have a clear sense of the self, they can just go into, taking on everybody's projections, everybody's trauma, which is what I did. And so because I was holding all of that, I was pushing everybody away and claiming myself as the victim, claiming myself as um, the victim in everything, And so it was just like, I'm, it was a hard experience. And um, I really wanted to connect so much deeper than what I was. And when I got into fitness, I was in fitness for 12 years, and about 5 to 6 of those years I was a bodybuilder. And when I got into bodybuilding, I became, like you were saying, kind of so badass that I wasn't really leaving room for the softer side, for receptivity, to to see the masculine um, as a support system. Rather I saw it more like a threat. Most masculine energy was more of a threat to me, and this was actually due to a wound that I was holding. That it was a hyper masculinized feminine, because of, like, you can't be so soft. It's so crazy to me how all of these energies, the feminine and the masculine, can kind of distort in such peculiar and curious ways. So my feminine was hyper masculinized, and I'm learning, and I've had to learn how to bring it into a more feminine expression. But I was holding on to those type of wounds of, like, I'm such a badass. Like, in the gym, I was the chick in there, like, I'm the badass, and, like, you get out of my way, and I'm going to show the boys how it's done. And so I was holding on to those types of wounds. But I completely agree with that. That was such. I feel like that's what we do a lot of times, is because we're holding on to that trauma or the beliefs that may be conscious or unconscious, that we're actually pushing people away. And whether, or, like, depending on the other programs that we may be running, we may be feeling like um, the victim. We may be playing the victim, instead of empowering ourselves through those relationships. Um, we're playing the victim, but they all, in the big scheme of things, to me, it all does serve, because until you become consciously aware of it and you choose for yourself to shift it, it's serving you to, in some way or another, right? It's serving you to either become conscious, or even in the frustrations of those dynamics playing out, it's serving you to become more conscious. And once you do become conscious of it, that's when you realize you have a choice to shift it or to not. Sometimes we can become consciously aware of things, and we're still, like, not quite ready to shift those things. And so I feel like having this conversation and just speaking these things out loud and letting others know that there's, like, so much subtle layers to these things, that it kind of allows others the ability to see behind the curtain, so to speak. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that any of that made sense, but, like, I totally agree with what you said.
Yeah. No, I mean that's so amazing. And yeah, I love what you said also, because all of this, it's very unconscious what we're doing to ourselves, or what we're the trauma that we are projecting. We don't really know what we're doing. Like in my case, I thought I was just being myself, and I accepted that as who I was. So I'm shy. Like I was always like very shy person, and I was like I didn't talk because I was shy. That's it. And I accepted that as my truth, as who I was. But in reality, I'm not shy. I was just, holding so much trauma within myself, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so I didn't know what to say, because I was running away from all of those fears and from all the frustration that I was holding within. And so I feel that in a way, like I was running away from that, but it was very unconscious. It was very unconscious. And so anything that people would say, I would accept it as the truth, because I was also a people pleaser. And that's
Mm,
something that, oh my gosh, that we all struggle with. And it's very intense, because as spiritual people, or like empaths, we want to make people happy. And so I wanted to make people happy. I wanted to be a nice girl, like a good person. And so I always said yes to people, and like at work, if they wanted me to do something, even though I had so many other things to do, I would always say yes, because I didn't want anyone to be disappointed or to be mad at me. And that also showed up with friendships, whenever like sometimes they would want to do something and I didn't have the energy to do anything, but I would say yes, because I wasn't honoring myself and I wasn't honoring what I was feeling. But yeah, it's all very unconscious. But this is something that I've been able to really I've been able to really listen to myself, to listen to my body, and to listen to what I feel, because it is in the feeling where the truth lies. If you feel uncomfortable, why do you feel uncomfortable? Like there's something within you that's making you feel uncomfortable. And so we are having to peel off the layers and to really dive deep within ourselves, to get to know ourselves, to explore what has been, like buried in underneath like all that trauma, because there's a lot of greatness within us. But, like we are always projecting, and we're always being on the receiving end of other people's projections and other people's fears, that like the truth get lost, and we forget who we are, because there's no one around us to remind us of this. And so that's why I also believe relationships and connections are so important, especially when it is with someone like Angelica, that is here and she is embodying her truth, and she is truthful, she is honest, she's going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. But and it's like that's the people that we need in our lives. We need connections that, or people that are honest, that are truthful, and that are conscious. Like that to me is the biggest thing. Is people, I don't care if you like have crystals or like light up incense or use tarot cards. I don't care about that. Like you can be whatever you want to be, but people that are conscious and that are mindful of their surroundings, and just of the people that are around you in general, I feel. Because I see a lot of people just observing when I go for walks in nature, for example. I see a lot of people walking and they're not really, they're such in this autopilot mode. And it's like they're missing out on so much, because they're in a hurry to get to their job, or they have to, I don't know, pick up their child from school, which is, like, yeah, that's, you have to do that. But, be more conscious and be more present in the moment. And I feel that people living in the future, and living in the, oh, I have to be there, like it's not even happening now, but I like we're already thinking about something that's not even here. And I feel that that's what brings a lot of anxiety and creates a lot of frustration within the human. But yeah, I loved everything that you said, and it's just so beautiful just to see the polarity when it comes to connections, because there's a lot of connections that do bring us down, but then there's also a lot of beautiful connections, like the one that we have, that is like equal. There is an equal exchange of energy, and that's what I love. And I feel that's why I love having friends now, because the friends that I have are equally giving, and we are equally giving and receiving. And so we are on the same page in a way, even though, like, our perspectives may vary and we don't agree on everything. We are still we There is no judgment. I feel that's another thing that is so important in connections, whether
Mm.
it be in a romantic relationship or just a friendship, within family dynamics. Oh my god, especially with family, like, people struggle with that. But it's like, it's like having that connection where there is no judgment, and where you can listen to other people, to their frustrations, to the things that are bothering them. You put in, and just be there for them, hold the space, hold the container, and just listen to what they're saying without judgment. I feel that that's so important, and that's something that I have now in the connections that I'm with. It's just that zone where I can just be me, and I don't have to, act shy because I feel uncomfortable with the person that's with me. Like, I can just speak, and I can use my voice, and they are awakening within me the true person that I am, or like that true energetic blueprint that is meant to be embodied this lifetime. And so, it's like a lot of people want to run away from connections, and they want to do things alone. And I was that person. I wanted to do things alone, on my own. I was like, I don't need anyone. But and you don't need anyone. You really don't. But what I've come to realize now is that I want that connection, and I want to create with other people. And because I love hearing other people's perspectives, I love hearing what Angelica has to say and what other people have to say. I love listening, and I love observing and learning that way. So connections for me have really changed. Like, the perspective that I had of connections, of relationships, has really shifted. I went from witnessing very toxic relationships within my family, within friends, to just like having the most beautiful connections myself with other people. So it's been amazing. And, Angelica, thank you for being here with me, and for for just for just listening, because I can talk a lot, and sometimes it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it's very beautiful when you can have someone that listens, and that, just is there, and it's not going to judge you. Again, like, that judgment thing is so big for me, because I know, Angelica, you too, we have such an open mind. And it's like we are not afraid of talking about extraterrestrials, about different universes, about witches, and about mermaids, and all of that stuff. And so having someone that you can talk about this with is so beautiful. And we have spirit guides, there's energies around us that we can connect to at all times. But having the physical thing, that's something else. Well, it's and our connection is not really physical, but, like, we're seeing each other, we're talking, we're texting. It's very beautiful. So yeah.
Mm. Yes, and I wanted to. I might as I express my same gratitude to you for connecting, to me like we have. It's taken us, probably, I don't know how long it's been, honestly, because I remember you from the Soul Light, and, just kind of like slowly coming together, in this really, really beautiful way. And I feel like that has been due to, us both diving into our own shadows and not afraid to do the work that was required of us to become more aligned in order to bring in those relationships that can be mutually beneficial. They don't have to be codependent
Mm,
in the sense that it's dragging each other down. It's an empowered relationship. And so I want to take the time to share my gratitude with you, of because I I feel like this is what makes me excited to um, to meet new people and to show others that an energetic exchange can be so much more than what the social and the cultural conditioning can be or has taught us that, especially, I mean, because I was born in the 80s, so it went from people go and physically, spending time with each other to now it's like all over the phone, or it's like everybody's on their phone and it's very impersonal. And so it's like we got to get back to, being very, very personal and very real if that's what we choose, right? But, it's not to insist that anybody has to be any kind of way, but uh, just in my own experience, doing the internal work, the shadow work, or whatever work has come up, um, and doing that reflection, and being open to those uncomfortable, or sometimes we don't want to see those truths, um, being open to having them come up and working through them, no matter how freaking uncomfortable and
Mm.
crappy
Yeah.
it can be sometimes. It allows us to shift into such clarity, and higher vibration, right? But it allows us to become very, very clear in what we want, what kind of relationships we want to sustain, and the relationships that no longer are resonant with you, most likely, oftentimes will just fall away. As it's been my experience, and I know that's not everybody's experience, but I feel like there's also the relationships that we have to say no, no more. We have to stand up for ourselves, stand up for, in our own empowerment, not pushing somebody away just because they have a different view, but standing in our empowerment and saying, you know what? No, this is, I respect myself and I honor myself enough to say no more, or whatever the conversation is. Um, but yeah, I feel like there's so much to dive into here. Um, and for me, it's been becoming consciously aware of the subtleties in my own self, that are actually creating certain relationship dynamics. Um, like we were talking about before, um, I because I was experiencing all of that trauma and I was pushing everybody away, and I only had like one or two close people in my life, and it's kind of the same thing now, but it's in a much different dynamic. um, that I was pushing everybody away and I was jumping from relationship to relationship because I was so afraid to look at myself. I was so afraid to address the trauma, but it was all unconscious. It was so unconscious. um, and I feel like once we can sit with ourselves or give ourselves some time and some space, even if you're in a relationship, just giving yourself some of your own time and your own space to come to your own awarenesses about what you like, your likes and your dislikes, um, how you honor yourself in a relationship. There's so many different things we could dive into there, but like for me, that's how over the years, I've become aware of all of these subtleties that actually build the foundations for those patterns to either play out in your external relationships. So yeah.
Yeah. There's so much. And I did want to go back to what you were saying about the relationships that are going to just stop existing, just, like with us, because that's something that I definitely experienced. And I know that everyone that is on a spiritual journey, they'll experience this at some point with either friendships or lovers or like even family members, and that's because of the disconnection, that energetic disconnection. It's like, and what I was able to learn myself is that because I was always pointing fingers, and it was like, oh, this person did this, and oh, this other person, like, they hurt me, like, always pointing the finger. And it wasn't until I realized that it was all energy, and it is, I don't remember the quote, but I remember Feel Good saying something about it's nothing personal, it's energetical, or it's vibrational. And that quote, when I heard that quote for the first time, it was like, whoa, like that's it, it's nothing personal. Like, this person is not, and maybe it's all very unconscious, and it's, and I know that, it's never, or with the connections that I had, it was never their intention to hurt me. But because of all the trauma that I had within myself and all the fears that I had, it hurt, because it was pointing all of the things that I needed to fix within myself. And so when I took responsibility and I realized that I am not the victim, and that, like, it wasn't this person's intention to cause any sort of pain, that's when I was really able to look at myself and be at peace with whatever the connection was, and to let go of the connection. And I feel that it's very important for us to let go at some point, if the connection is not, if the connection is not going anywhere, and if you know that you've done everything that you needed to do, then you have to let go. And you have to let go with love, with compassion, and understanding, and knowing that, that it's never been about the person that you are. It's always been just a disalignment in energy, a disalignment in beliefs or perspectives. And so I think it's very powerful when we become conscious of that, and we take responsibility, and we say, okay, like, this connection is no longer working, and not fight with the other person and be like, you know what, fuck you, like, hold on, let me mute this, because
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, of just having, yeah, not having to fight, and realizing, for me, it it really sank in this year that whenever I'm experiencing some kind of trigger that's externally triggering me, basically externally stimulating me, that it's my work to do whatever internal reflection that's required of me to become aware of, like you said, it's pointing at something in you. It's that, it could be that person's higher self, or your higher self being like, hey, like, look at this. It's something within your own being that's saying, there's something that needs to be addressed. There's something that needs your attention. There's something that maybe needs your compassion, maybe needs your forgiveness. It's something that needs to be addressed within you. And so it's like, you don't have to fight. I mean, we can, and there are very, very appropriate times to do um, to express that kind of energy. But I feel like it's far less more than what the social programming is. But I totally agree with that. I feel like that's really been, it's really hit home to me this year, of if there's an external trigger that's really triggering me internally, then that's my work to address that and to see what that is. Because the programming and the conditioning is to right away kind of just throw that energy right back and point the finger and place blame and say, no, it's not me, it's you. Or on the opposite end, it can be like, okay, it's all my fault, rather than sitting in our empowerment. So it can go all different ways, right? But yeah, I totally agree with what you said there.
yeah. And I think if anyone is watching this or watches this in the future, I feel like that's the most important thing to remember, is that, and it's compassion. I feel like for me, is having compassion for myself and having compassion for the people that I was connecting with. And I feel that that compassion is what really, because because when things happen, you get triggered and you say things, and I did that. And I a few weeks ago, I went through this whole purge of just like regret, and just like I had to forgive myself for saying things to people, and especially like with the twin flame dynamic, because that person triggered the fuck out of me, like everything. Because I'm usually very chill, but with this person, like I went crazy. But anyways, so yeah, and it's just it's so beautiful when you are able to hold that container of compassion and see other people as your equals and see other people with love. And even though if a friend, is no longer in alignment with where you are at now, that you can see that friend and you can be excited for the life that they are living, or if they're with another friend and they're like doing their thing, like just being able to feel excitement and feel happiness for them and feel love. Or if anyone out there is in a twin flame connection, and you are in separation, and they're with a partner now, it's like being able to see them and being grateful for the experience, for the lessons that this other person taught you. That alone is what really helped me, because, well, I mean, that person in general, like, I am who I am because of the experiences that I had with this person, because it was the conscious awareness of all that I was holding in within myself that this connection brought to my attention. Like, that's the reason I was able to face the trauma and to face my fears, because this other person brought it all to the surface. And so knowing and seeing that as this catalyst for your spiritual awakening, and holding again that compassion and that gratitude, and that's just it just makes life so much easier. Just to be compassionate, to be nice, and to like just be excited for everything and for everyone, even though we're not on the same page. It's like knowing that we all have a destined path, and that if it's meant to be, at one point you're gonna meet again, and it will work out if it's meant to. So it's very beautiful. And at this point in my life, I am, again, like, all my connections are online, really. I don't really have a lot of friends physically, but I am able to connect with other people on social media, or and I think that's very important, to not isolate ourselves. There is a time where that is needed, the isolation period. I was a hermit for like 3 years, and I didn't have like any connections or anything. I was just in my room crying. But that's needed, because that's when we face the trauma. That's when we face ourselves. But to all the star seeds and to all the empaths, like, don't isolate yourself. If you have someone that is there with you, or reach out to people on social media, on groups, and really like ask for help as well, because that's something that my ego wasn't letting me do. Like, I was like, no, I'm gonna handle this, like I can do this on my own. But it's like, girl, humble yourself, like you need help. And so like reaching out to people that you admire, or like spiritual teachers that like have like do sessions and stuff like that. I humbled myself, and I was like, I can't do this on my own. So that's when I started reaching out to people and getting sessions, just to really get validation more than anything. For me, that was because I was like, I'm a very extraterrestrial person, and so I thought I was crazy. And like the whole twin flame journey was driving me crazy as well. So getting that validation from other people that, hey, you're not crazy, like this is actually happening. And hearing other perspectives, that was very helpful for me. But yeah, just my advice to you would be not to isolate yourself. And because it's very, like, that's the number one thing that I wanted to do, is to just be on my own, go to an island or go to a forest and live there with my little chihuahua. That's what I wanted to do. That was the plan. But then I started, I realized that that I wanted more for myself and that I wanted to create with other people. And that's what shifted everything when it comes to connections and to relationships with me. And so now I'm at a point where I am pretty much everything that I am doing now. I am co creating with other people. I am doing things on my own. And those are, like those are the things that I am meant to create on my own. But there's a lot that I wanted to do on my own that wasn't meant to be done alone, and that I am now co-creating with others. And and having that support has been very, very amazing. So yeah, it's been a beautiful journey.
I I love what you're saying, what you've said. And when you were touching on, ooh, what was it? Of being like kind of going into I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be the twin flame journey. It can be just as these people kind of maybe fall out of your life, or just as you're experiencing, having your own experience in general, and being happy for others. I feel like I was like, oh my gosh, I want to bring in the other side of that. And I feel like that's totally valid. And I feel like, yes, absolutely. And at the same time, also honor whatever your human might be feeling, because you might feel bitterness, you might feel resentment, you might feel like, fuck that. You might have like so anger and really, really low vibrational, you could say low vibrational states of being come up with you and within you. And I feel like that's so important to honor within yourself if that is something that's coming up. And working through that would be, you know, taking time to explore what and why that's coming up, because normally it's attached, or it stems from some other time in your life. Usually it's childhood, but it can be other traumas that, that another time in your life where you felt that way and it went unexpressed or unaddressed and maybe unintegrated. You didn't feel it fully. You didn't allow yourself for whatever reason to feel it fully. And now it's coming back. And I feel like that's part of what's so beautiful about the twin flame journey, is that if this person, or it could be a soulmate, it could be anybody, that's coming into your life and it's triggering the fuck out of you, and it's allowing you that time, that opportunity. It's actually an opportunity. It feels shitty, but it's giving you actually the opportunity to say, hey, what's here that I haven't addressed within myself? What's here that needs to be seen? Or do I need to give this part of myself compassion or forgiveness or acceptance? And the acceptance is like such a big part of that. I feel like accepting the reality of what is, and especially when it comes to twin flames or any other type of relationship that we might get into, so being so attached and expecting that it has to be a certain outcome, that it's actually there to teach us that to detach from that and accept the reality that's happening.
Yeah.
But I love what you're saying there with all of that. I'm like, yes, yes, and let's, you gotta, otherwise, um, it's kind of the balance of letting it flow. And yeah, there's the, uh, what's the word? I don't know what the word is. Sometimes it can overflow, right? Too much emotion, that it's not in balance, right? And so that needs to be addressed too. Or sometimes we're so apathetic and we're not letting ourselves feel what's actually going on within ourselves, because we don't want to feel it. We don't want to feel the pain. We don't want to feel the hurt. And so there's a balance point, and the balance point within everybody is different. But definitely take that time. If you're triggered in whatever way, no matter who is triggering or what situation is the trigger, to allow yourself some time to explore um, those emotions so that you can be, so that you can move into the other side of clarity and being happy and being like, you know what? That was like, at the time it was really shitty,
Mhm.
but it showed me so much and I'm so freaking glad that it happened. Or at least that's been my experience.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's absolutely, you're so right about, and what you said about honoring the feelings and whatever we are feeling, whether it is frustration or anger or, like bitterness, whatever it is, because I feel that for me, the 3 years that I spent in isolation, it was because I didn't want to project any of those things that I was feeling to other people, but I was actually taking the time myself to feel it all and to and it's so uncomfortable because everyone wants to be so happy all the time, like love and light, peace, like we want to be so happy, but it's like there's time where there's times where you don't feel happy, and you have to be okay with that, like, and there were so many days and weeks that I just spent alone, just feeling the anger and feeling the frustration. But I was in isolation, so I didn't, like I wasn't projecting all of this to other people, so I was being responsible by not engaging to other people in a way to like just dumping all my shit on them. So I was, I think it's very beautiful when we are able to embrace that and to be okay with it, that hey, I don't feel good today and I'm not gonna do anything, I'm just gonna cry. So and be, just be fine with that. So I think that's very
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you for saying that, because it's very important just to honor whatever we feel and to be okay with whatever we're feeling, but not to stay stuck in those lower vibrations.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's that the more we feel it, the more we can fall into like the victim mentality, the more we believe that we are
Yeah.
victims. And in my case, like I was falling into that, listening to like heartbreak songs and all of that stuff. And it was like I was starting to feed more of that resentment and more of that frustration within me. And then, it was like, hey, like wake up, like my guy, it's like, hey, yeah, it's okay to feel this way, but you're making yourself feel worse. So it was like, hey, I was addressing, I was feeling everything, diving deep within myself to address the root of the trauma, the root of why I was feeling the way that I felt. And then once I addressed that, I took action to change it and to shift the energy around it, and to start feeling better so that I wouldn't just be angry all the time or sad all the time. So yeah, honor yourself, honor your feelings, but don't stay there, because
Yeah.
you're not the victim. You are never the victim. So
Yeah.
that's very important to remember and to be
Mhm.
conscious of. So, yeah, I mean, there's so much, honestly, that we can talk, that we can say when it comes to relationships, and even more when it comes to twin flame connections and like karmic soulmates or shadow mentors and soulmates. Um, but this is something that we are going to save for next week, because next week is going to be the really, again, like I said at the beginning, we're gonna be talking about twin flames. I feel comfortable enough now to share everything, to really open up. Of course, I'm gonna be respecting this other person and honoring their journey, but I feel ready to share everything that I personally went through and that I experienced, and the lessons that I learned and how I learned them, and how I was able to really just come back to myself and to be happy with who I am without, like having to be in a connection or looking for that one, for the one, because that's that. That's a whole other thing, it's like you are the one, like come on, like I am the one, like I'm the one I was
Yeah.
looking for. And that really is, I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but it really is, like you are the one that you're looking for. There's the person that is showing up externally is a reflection of your internal reality, of how you feel internally. And that's so true, because like the twin flame dynamic that I experienced, like that was exactly a projection of what was happening inside of me, and it showed up to, like point that out. But like I'm not gonna dive into it, but yeah, so it's so beautiful. And your twin flame experience was a bit different from mine, so I'm so excited to hear what you have to say about like everything that happened and just whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm excited to share. I know that I have, a video on my YouTube that I somewhat dove into, but I didn't share the details because I didn't feel that they were necessary or relevant at the time. It was mostly sharing what I like kind of learned from it. But I'm ready now to share more of it. And because I've had also time to kind of get clarity for myself and discern for myself what has happened, or, what that allowed me to see, because it was so profound, but it also allowed me to see so much deeper into the really disempowering dynamics and relationships that I was playing out and I wasn't allowing myself to see before. And so this person came in to like really show me some profound realizations that I was about the patterns I was still playing out. So I'm excited to share that as well.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely, that is something that we're gonna be talking about next week. It's all gonna be about twin flames. And yeah, but just to close this live, I really feel that, the message that I personally want to relay is how important the relationship that we have with ourselves is. And how when we are able to really strengthen that relationship that we have with ourselves, that's when we are able to have healthy relationships and healthy connections with other people. And I feel that's very important. It's to, instead of feeling that people don't like you, or that people hate you, it's like, well, come back to yourself. Why do you feel this way, and address the trauma within you, so that, like you can start. Uh, well, because again, everything, I said this before, but everything is a projection, and it's all just a reflection of what's happening within you. And a lot of the times, and this has been my experience, I was kind of imagining things in my head, or hearing words that, that I thought people were thinking about me, when in reality, that was all a creation of my own ego and my own imagination. So, it's very convoluted, and there's a lot of, like trauma. The trauma really is what creates a lot of the illusions and a lot of the pain also within ourselves. But yeah, so is there anything else that we're leaving out, or that you want to talk about regarding relationships or anything?
I feel that I want to, second, like really emphasize what you said there, as well as just add on to when we allow ourselves to take the time, because this has been my experience, and not that it has to be anybody else's, but just sharing my experience here, that when we allow ourselves to take that time, that space, to really get to know who we are, get to know our energy, especially for empaths, that's huge. Um, to establish boundaries within the self, establish like likes or dislikes, or like really subtle components that actually play into the larger patterns that we end up creating, and also allowing ourselves to experience it, because without having too many expectations or resistance, like I don't want to feel that, I don't want to feel the pain or feel that sting. It allows us to actually dive much deeper within ourselves and deepen our experience. It allows us to really grow into, the person that, many of us chose like really intended on being when we signed up for this reality. And it allows us to honor ourselves in every, stage or state of being, when we allow ourselves to be in the pain or in the darkness, right? The underworlds without getting stuck. It allows us to honor those parts of life and to see others so much clearer when they are in pain and possibly offer compassion or understanding without blaming or um, projecting victim consciousness onto each other. I just feel that as I've gotten to know myself deeper, it's allowed me to extend compassion, extend gratitude where I wasn't able to hold that before. And if we can all begin to open that up just a little bit, it allows for a greater human connection. It allows us to co-create so much moreness, on this planet, I feel, and just allows us to honor the whole human experience and not just the rainbows, the butterflies and all of the light stuff. It allows us to honor the dark. And for me, in my opinion, in my belief, it allows us to actually reconcile and bring everything into wholeness rather than just having it black and white. It allows us to actually neutralize and come back to a center point, back to the 0 point. So honor all of it where you are. It's all perfect. You are where you are for a reason, and honor your human experience. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful way to close this. I mean, it really is just so beautiful. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much for today. Angelica, if you want to go ahead and just like tell people where they can find you, the services that you offer, your website.
Yeah, of course. So my links, basically angelfirestarchild.com, and or you can also find me on Patreon under the same name. But if you go to my website, angelfirestarchild.com, I have basically three types of offerings so far because I have such a far kind of like a varied extent of what I can do in a session. I just kind of offer basic sessions that we can do. We can open up certain things. We can do, whatever healing or bring, do magical things through for you. So I kind of have just a basic one-on-one session, and I have also an ancestral healing session that I personally love, and I've done quite a few ancestral healings for people. That's one of my passions that I love to do. That I love when people sign up for that because I love to help to heal the lineage stuff because
So
we're
important.
here to break those cycles. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
definitely here to break those cycles. And so basically, yeah, I have kind of an extensive range of what I can do. So like a regular one-on-one session, we can do so many different things. It's really just like reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, this is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like I want to work with you, and here's what I'd like to do." And we can make it happen.
Yeah. And Angelica is amazing. So highly recommend her services. She always sends me transmissions and like light language transmissions, and all the information that comes through is always so empowering, and it just awakens so much within me. So I highly recommend that. Anyone that feels guided to get her services, and because she is I'm just gonna say, like, I have to say this, like, you are such an open channel for higher vibrational energies. And it's like, I never have to worry with you that something demonic or something that's lower vibrational is gonna come through, because you are this very beautiful container for just high vibrational energy. And like spirit and like all of this beautiful, amazing just beings love you. Like, I really feel that with you. So it's always very empowering and very inspiring for me, because the way that you are able to hold that energy when it comes through, that's just so fascinating to me, because I pass out when there's too much energy. I just pass out. I'm like, I'm out. So just you being able to hold that energy so that I can feel it as well, it's very helpful. So thank you for doing that. So again, highly recommend. And for me, I also offer one-on-one sessions, but like mine are, again, like Angelica was saying, I do have a very basic session where it's like I just connect with you and just show up with whatever you are going through, and then it just flows, and just I offer whatever it is that I feel energetically that you need. And so sometimes maybe some galactic beings will show up, maybe some angels, some elementals. I recently had a session where someone that passed away actually came in, and that was the first one for me, because when I first started connecting and channeling, people, I said to spirit, I said to God, I don't want to connect with people that passed away. Like, I said that, and that's because of all the scary movies that we see, like ghosts are so scary. So I was like, I don't want to do that. But when it happened this time, it was so beautiful. And the person that we were connecting to was such a master soul. So I was like, okay, I'm open to it. We can do that now. So so yeah, so maybe someone, an ancestor or relative, may show up. um but yeah, it's just an empowering session, for people that are not really sure of what their purpose in life is. So yeah, and I also have another session for people that are on the twin flame journey, just to help you come back to yourself, and just to give you more clarity and validation also, if you need any regarding your journey. And that's all in my website, metaphysicalchick.com. You can find me also on YouTube, Instagram, and even TikTok. Now we're TikTokers now.
Yes.
You can find me there at the Metaphysical Chick, and all the links are gonna be on the here on this video. But then also, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's gonna be on the description box, so people will be able to see that there as well. And one more thing that I do is crystals. So I do create crystal jewelry, and yeah, so I do have. Oh, there you go. That's I
There,
actually
there you
that's one of my favorite pieces. Just because sunstone alone is a very
go. Love
beautiful,
it.
such a beautiful crystal, and that's when I see sunstone, like I immediately think of Angelica. So when that crystal was in my hands, I was like holding all that Angelica is. It was like all the potentials, which was just so fascinating, so amazing. Um, but yeah, so if anyone is interested in custom pieces, I create that as well, channeling just different galactic civilizations or like collectives, different energies, just pretty much anything that you can think of. It's all in the quantum field, and that's where I work. So it's so amazing. But yeah, so Angelica, is there anything else?
I think that's it. I think we have all of our links and stuff that'll be provided, and yeah, check us both out if you feel you resonate with either one of us. And yeah, I feel like people will be drawn if they feel the resonance.
Yeah.
And that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely it. I mean, that's definitely what our intention is, just for whoever is meant to listen to this, whoever is meant to work with it, with us, with any of us, that they will find us, and that will be a beautiful exchange of energies. So yeah, so I'm so happy we finally did this, and it is official. This is actually a thing. It is happening. And so we have again four more videos within this series, and then after the relationship series is complete, we are diving into more topics. So if anyone has any ideas or wants to hear about, something specific, just let us know. You can leave a comment, you can message us. And yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. Angelica, if you don't have anything else to say, I'll just close this.
I think we're good. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Well, this has been fun. And so until next time. Bye.
Bye.